We can think of a directive as a custom HTML element or attribute that we can use to extend HTML. We can build our own custom directives or use Angular 2's built-in directives. Previously in this section, we learned to build a component and use it as a custom directive. We use the EL events directive to display our event list template. In addition to building our own custom directives, we can use an Angular 2 built-in directive. The built-in Angular 2 directives we want to look at specifically are structural directives. A structural directive modifies the structure or layout of a view by adding, removing, or otherwise manipulating elements and their child elements. They help us to enhance our HTML with conventions like if logic and for loops. Notice the asterisk in front of the directive name. In Angular 2, an asterisk in front of a directive's name indicates that it is, in fact, a structural directive. We can look at *ngIf, and this is a structural directive that removes or recreates a portion of the DOM tree based on an expression. If the expression assigned to the *ngIf evaluates to a false value, the element and its children are removed from the DOM. If the expression evaluates to a true value, a copy of the element and its children are reinserted into the DOM. Let's take a look. Say we only wanted to show the HTML table if there are some events in a list of events. We use *ngIf on the table element and set it to events length. If the events list has a length, meaning the list contains one or more events, the table appears in the DOM. If not, the table element and all of its children are removed from the DOM. This is the events list component and its template. We only want to display this table of events if there are some events to display. So the first thing we need is a property to hold the list of events. Where do we define that events property? In the components class, of course. We'll add an event property here, but what is the type of this property? Well, we want an array of event instances, but we don't currently have anything that defines what an event is. We'll have a better solution in a later section of this course, but for now, we'll just define events as an array of any. In TypeScript, we use any as the data type anytime we don't know or don't care what the specific data type is. We need to populate our array, but where do we get the data? In many cases, we would communicate with a backend server to get this data. We will learn how to do that later on in this course as well. For now, we'll just hard code a set of events. To keep it simple, we can just swipe a few of the events from the events.json file provided with the starter file kit, and they're located here. With an event property in place, we're ready to use it in the HTML. We want to put it on the table element because that is the element we want to add or remove from the DOM. So code in *ngIf equals, and then our expression enclosed in single quotes. We only want to show the table if there is a list of events, and that list of events contains some elements. Let's check this in the browser. We see the table header, so we know that our table is displayed. We can comment out the event property assignment, the events array, and then look at it in the browser again, and we can see that the table was removed. Now, if we uncomment the table, and look at it in the browser, the table has reappeared. With *ngIf, the associated element and its children are literally added or removed from the DOM. But notice that we still aren't populating the table with our events. We'll focus on that in the next lecture. Another structural directive is *ngFor. ngFor repeats a portion of the DOM tree once for each item in an iterable list. So we define a block of HTML that indicates how we want to display a single item and tell Angular 2 to use that block for displaying each item in the list. For example, say we want to display each event in a row of a table. We define one table row and the child table data elements for that row. That table row element and its children are then repeated for each event in the list of events. Note the hash symbol that was used. The hash symbol explicitly defines this variable as a local variable used only in the template. We can reference the variable on this element on any sibling element or on any child element. Also note the use of instead of in. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Let's apply this concept in our course project. This is the event list component and its template. Here in the table body, we want to repeat a table row for each event in the list of events. In the table body, we can add a tr element for the table row. Then in the tr element, we can specify the star ng4. Star ng4 equals hashtag event of events in single quote. Next, we can add the child elements. Let's insert a td, or table data element, for each property of the event that we want to display in the table. We can match them up with the table header elements. The first column displays the event image. Let's skip the image for now, and we'll add that in the next module. But we should add a td element as a placeholder for the time being. The next table header says event. So in this column, we want the event name. We can use interpolation to bind to the event name by using the local variable event, and a dot to drill down to the event properties. We want event.name right here. How did we know that property name? Looking here at the event list component, we can see the event property names listed here. So these are the names we use in the interpolation template expressions. Next, we can add td elements for some of the other event properties. So for each event in the list of events, we will get a tr element for a table row and td elements for table data. Let's see how this looks in the browser. This looks pretty good, but it needs work. Let's look again at the component. We defined an array for the list of events. In the template, we laid out the HTML to display a single event. The event is displayed in a table row with event properties in the appropriate columns. By using a star ng4 structural directive, the table row and its columns are repeated and displayed for each event in the list of events. So why does Angular 2's star ng4 syntax use of and not in like Angular 1 and other JS syntax? The reasoning for this has to do with ES 2015 for loops. ES 2015 has both a for of loop and a for in loop. The for of loop is similar to a for each style loop in that it iterates over an iterable object, such as an array, for example. Say we have an array of persons' nicknames. If we use for of to iterate over this list, we will see each nickname logged to the console. The for in loop iterates over the properties of an object. When working with an array, such as in this example, the array indices are enumerable properties with integer names and are otherwise identical to general object properties, so we see each array index logged to the console. To help remember the difference, think of in as iterating the index. Since the star ng4 directive iterates over iterable objects, not their properties, Angular 2 authors decided to use the of keyword in the ng4 expression.